6,000. That is approximately the number of languages spoken around the world today. I have a question for you. How many languages do you think there will be 100 years from now? I'd like you to make an estimate in your mind. UNESCO predicts that already by the end of this century, half of our languages will have disappeared. So if you had a number in mind lower than the current 6,000, you were thinking in the right direction. One of the languages that is in danger of disappearing is Muklom Tangsa. The Muklom Tangsa people live in northeast India, in an area known as a linguistic hotspot, an area packed with languages. The region only recently has become accessible to outsiders, and we currently have no good description of any Tangsa language. The Muklom Tangsa are few in number, a couple of thousand. They have a rich oral tradition and no standardized writing system. They're feeling the pressure and the attractive force of the larger languages in their environment. I've lived with the Muklom Tangsa people for 5 months. They taught me their language, and I made recordings. Recordings of discussion sessions on traditional practices and recordings of their stories, as told by the elders. We spent hours in the evening sitting around the fire talking about just language. The results of this work, my thesis, will consist of 3 components: a grammatical description, a collection of spoken texts, and a vocabulary. Why should we document Muklom Tangsa? Why should we document any endangered language? When an unwritten language dies, it represents not only the loss of a unique communication system, but also the loss of traditional knowledge that belongs to a community. Think about all the oral history, the myths, the songs, the rituals that are encoded by the language. In fact, we know from experience that this knowledge starts dying away well before the last speaker of a language dies. By recording and by putting into writing, we preserve some of this precious knowledge. The results of my research are a tool in the hands of the Muklom Tangsa community for revitalizing their language if needed. Also, my thesis will be the first comprehensive description of this unique language and will therefore make a substantial contribution to our linguistic knowledge of this understudied region. Let me take you back to the beginning of this story. There are approximately 6,000 languages spoken around the world today. Big languages are getting bigger and push their way into the foreground, while at the same time, some smaller languages often become smaller and are pushed into the background. But they do not have to disappear from view entirely. Not if we decide to do something about it. Thank you.